Hey everybody, welcome to Hey We're Talking. We're Sans Bob again. Bob had a, what'd you call it? It's not major. Is it a minor? I don't know. What would you consider that? A major?
No, it'd be like a minor procedure.
Okay. Is it minor plus? I mean, he did get an actual tooth yanked out of his mouth.
I would say minor surgery would be something like you would go to the hospital for.
And then you get to go home, right?
They put you under and you still get to go home the same day. Major surgery would be like they're cracking open your brain.
Right.
They're cracking open your ribs.
Right.
He was there. He just did the
it's
tooth.
Some dental work done.
They pulled a tooth.
Yeah. I guess it's
Quit
because
complaining, Bob.
I guess
Jeez.
it's because the only experience I had with like teeth pulling, I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth taken out when I was like 16 years old. And it was weird, man, because I think they tried to just gas me at first. I mean, they Novocaine it, obviously, but I think they gassed me, so I was like really out of it. Like it was like a dream sequence, you know?
Yeah.
And I just remember they had to saw into my jaw to get one of them out because it was like so attached. I don't know what the term is, but it was hard to get out. And I also remember the dentist. This could be, again, I could have been hallucinating this, but I remember him on top of me trying to yank the tooth out, like pulling so hard that he had to get his weight behind it to get it out.
So you were under some moderate sedation is what you were.
Yeah. And then I went home and like, I don't think I ever remember feeling something hurt so bad in my life as that. And I've broken limbs and other stuff, and I've blown out my knees. That one was very painful. They gave me like Tylenol 3 or something to take. And I remember the first day I was like, I'm not going to take these. I'm a man. And then my head hurt so bad that night. I was like, oh, God, please help me.
16-year-old Scott. Yeah. You should have taken a lesson from 24-year-old Derek.
Yeah.
Back when I was in the Air Force. Military police in the Air Force. That's when I had my wisdom teeth out. Now, the wisdom teeth only existed on the top.
Okay.
They never, they didn't even form at all on the bottom. So, not even underneath.
Yeah.
They just didn't exist.
Okay.
So they were like, we need you to come in. We're going to take out your wisdom teeth. And they're like, it's going to be great. It's because when it's the top, that's the least complicated one,
right? Because
it drains, it just drains out. Now it's the bottom ones that give a lot of people problems because there's nowhere for it to go. It all that infection or that goo, it just kind of pools down
let's
there.
Not go to the pimple popper stuff. Go ahead.
No, let's not. But they were like, it's going to be great.
Okay.
And I was like, well, but I'd had people say like, you might want to get like a good prescription for some like pain medication. I think I remember like my mom telling me like that. She was like, you need to get some good prescriptions. And so before I started the procedure, the big joke in the military is they prescribe Motrin, ibuprofen for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. 800 milligrams, 4 times a day.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But the guy, right before they were going to put me under, they were like, I said, what are you going to prescribe me for the pain afterwards? And he goes, Motrin. I was like, Motrin doesn't do so good on me.
Right.
I was like, I'll give you some like hydrocodone or Percocet or something. I'm like, great.
Okay.
So he puts me under and it goes, I don't remember it. It just, I'm out.
Yep.
I wake up and there it is.
Yeah.
But I had the gauze in my mouth and I was really like a zombie, just like, well, I had to go fill the prescription and I had a buddy, with me. He was going to drive me back to my apartment. And the thing in the military is you got to be in uniform for your appointments.
Oh my gosh, really?
It's a day off. It's a day off. So I can't just show up in like t-shirt and shorts, like, here, take out my tooth. No, you have to show up in, I was about to say scrubs, but I wasn't a nurse then.
No, you weren't.
My BDUs, my battle dress uniform.
Yeah.
The camos. So I'm decked out with that, and I go to this pharmacy to get it filled, and there's a bunch of basic trainees there.
Okay.
And because that's where in San Antonio, that's where all the basic trainees go, and they saw me because every time I'm a cop, so they're trained to be like
yeah.
But here I am like
and they're like, what's wrong with this guy, dude?
And they're also like, sir, and I'm like, just relax, I'm here for pills, and then I get them and I go home. Later on that month, I remember my wife at the time.
Yeah.
My former
Your
wife.
former wife.
We were separated at the time.
Okay.
I hosted a party at my apartment.
Yeah.
I think John was with his mom that day.
Uh-huh.
And it's like a singles party, like
single and ready to mingle.
If you don't have anywhere to go, just come to my place.
Yeah.
And so I never really needed the pills.
Is this going to be a bad story? Are you about to tell that you distributed drugs to people?
No, I'm saying before the party started, I popped a couple.
Oh my gosh.
I popped a couple and then proceeded to the drinking, and I had the worst
gosh.
Ever. Shenanigans ensued, but
Derek.
I think I eventually left. I threw up over a balcony. It was a bad.
Derek, what are you doing?
It was so weird.
That was a bad call. How old were you?
I was 24.
Oh, okay. Well, still, shame on you, Derek. Shame on you.
Sorry. So
for any of the children listening, that is a terrible, terrible thing to do.
I don't think Bob is going to do the same thing.
No.
Not going to jump in a apartment pool. You're not going to jump the fence.
Oh no.
And swim naked in an apartment swimming pool.
Oh my gosh, Derek. What the heck? That's terrible.
I was naked, but
so here's the extent of the bad stuff that I did. At the time that I was getting these teeth removed, I was courting my now wife, Cheryl Donnelly. And at the time, she was not Cheryl Donnelly. But so I called, one of my friends called from, by the way, this will show you how old I am, a payphone in the high school hallway called me while I was at home recovering from the wisdom teeth being yanked and said, hey, do you like Cheryl? Like, you want to date her like Cheryl? And I was like, yeah. And did that whole game. And so we set up a date. I was going to take her out on a date the day after I had my wisdom teeth pulled on a Saturday. And I was driving to her house, and I still apparently was not completely functional. And I spun my car around on the exit ramp from a freeway because I was not ready to be driving around, apparently. So I was under the influence of something. I don't know what. But I lived, and she married me, and here we are.
So you won.
I did. Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
Wow. That took a turn talking about Bob and his teeth. He didn't sound like he was too concerned about it. He seemed like he was just like, but I mean, that's Bob, right? I mean,
but he wasn't getting his wisdom teeth.
No, out. But he's getting like a normal tooth just yanked out of his mouth. I mean, it was hurting him. Obviously, you don't pull out a good tooth.
Yeah, I probably had it probably cracked or something like that, and they probably said, well, we can fix it, but we're gonna have to do a root canal and do a crown.
No,
that is a long process.
No, yank that thing out. Yeah,
and it gets pricey. I mean, I had it done to that one right there.
Yeah. Again,
if you're listening on the
YouTube
on the podcast,
you can see the one he's pointing at.
It was that one.
Yeah,
but
because that's got a crown on
it. There's a like a ceramic crown on it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a primary chomper on that tooth, but I think
a primary chomper.
I think if you would have had the one next to it, and they're like, it's going to cost you $1,500 to fix it, I'd be like, take that tooth.
I think if you're working with, if they say that they're going to have to yank out a front tooth, something that's going to really show up in your smile, I'd say let's figure out how we can save that tooth. Unless it's just dead. You ever seen one of those dead teeth? The color gets all like...
Oh, Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but remember you're putting a crown on it.
Yeah.
So that changes everything.
Yeah, then it's going to be like pearly white, and you're going to have to start whitening your teeth. I got a crown once too, and the thing that people, if you've never had one, and I don't know if this is what happened to you, so I had a cavity filled on a tooth in the back, and it started like cracking from heat and cool, like from, drinking hot stuff and all that stuff. So eventually, back in the day, they didn't use the same kind of material they use now for fillings. And it kind of expands and contracts, and eventually it can crack the tooth a little bit. So I had a crack back there, and the guy was like, hey, we can just give you a crown. I was like, okay, whatever. So it's not a painful process, but it's very weird because they're sanding off all this tooth, and you get tooth powder in your mouth.
Yeah.
And it's very weird.
Oh, yeah.
And they put this thing on top of it, and it's temporary when they first make the crown. So you're like, you feel this thing. It's really weird. You can feel it on your tooth. And then you got to come back and they rip that thing off and put a new one on. It's bizarre. Yep. It's a strange thing, this crown.
It is. And what a strange episode.
It is.
But you're getting nothing but the tooth, baby.
You can't handle the tooth. So listen, just an update. I want to tell people about this because we've talked about Flat Earth. The name of the movie, do you remember the name of the movie, Derek?
Behind the Curve.
Behind the Curve. Okay, so this is a guy, Mark Sargent, is kind of the star of this movie.
I feel like we could probably get him on the podcast.
I think we could too, but here's the thing. Okay, so I'll explain it this way. So one of the guys we talked about on Friday last week, one of the guys that I watch on YouTube all the time, his name is Viva Frei. He's a lawyer from Canada, the Montreal area, and he reached out to Mark Sargent. Now, he's just a little over 50,000 subscribers, so he's not a huge YouTuber, but he's not a small YouTuber either. He reached out to this guy, Mark Sargent, and his pitch to him was, hey, I'd like to interview you and talk to you about this, and I have no ill intentions. I'm not going to... He even asked the guy, is it an insult to call you a flat earther? And Mark said, yeah, it is. And so he's not calling them flat earthers. He's going to try and have a respectful conversation with this guy. This actually happened on Sunday at noon. So you can watch. He's doing a live broadcast. Well, he did already. And you can watch him talk to Mark Sargent. It's very interesting. So I wanted to point people back to that because we've talked about Flat Earth. Now we've laughed at it because it is... I guess here's the thing. It is very ridiculous to me, but one of the things that even the movie kind of brings out is it's really just a way for these people to have connection to human beings. It really is. It's like it's a connection to people, even though I think the reason that they're connected is bizarre and unbelievable. They all feel like they have connection to human beings. And so... yeah, I just wanted to point people back to that. So go to Viva Frei's channel. That's VivaFrei. And check out that video he did with Mark Sargent. Should be interesting to see what happens. That flat Earth thing. I don't know, man.
I might have to check that out. And why is it an insult to call you a flat earther if that is your thing? Like, oh, I believe that there's a flat Earth. Oh, you're a flat earther. No.
I don't know.
Why is that an insult?
Maybe they talk about that in the interview. I'm going to have to watch it.
It's so strange. I mean, we've talked about this many times, but they have there's just this questioning nature. It's just they're very skeptical of everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Even their own results, even their own people.
Yeah.
And even remember the girl, she was, there were so many rumors about her.
Right.
And she would be like, I am presenting the facts to these people. Right. I'm telling them the truth. And yet they still believe all this ridiculous stuff about me. I don't get it. And then she had this moment where she was like, it's kind of like how we're questioning, the earth being round and, and calling the earth flat. And then she said, nah, it's totally different. But it totally was the same.
It is exactly the same. The thing that I think you just have to understand about this is it's like For some reason, when I think about these guys, I just think of like the X-Files, like the truth is out there. It's people that are in search of alternate meaning, and it's a lot of conspiracy theory stuff, and you just start to believe a lot of things. I think you can go down the rabbit hole on this, and the next thing you know, you're completely convinced of something that I think is pretty much easily proven to be wrong. I mean, it seems like it's something that you just have to, I mean, it's again, you put your blinders on and you just say, oh, I believe this completely. And anybody else that doesn't believe this is stupid and wrong. And so it'll be interesting to see what they talk about. But I don't know. See, that's why I say if we had them on the show, it'd be really hard for me not to be like, but dude, this is completely stupid. It's easy to see that the earth is round. I mean, how can you dispute that? And they have all these reasons why they dispute it.
Yeah, they have it. They have it already loaded up because they're going to face people like us every single day.
Right.
They have people every single day asking basic questions. What do you? Why? What about this? What about this? It's what about the sun? It's a light in the sky.
Right.
And
it is, but it is a light in the sky. But it is a light in the sky, but bazillions of miles away from us.
But the model of it, they have it like, it's just like, it's like a couple hundred miles above the earth.
Right.
And the reason you don't see it is because it goes that way for a little bit. Like, no. If it worked the way their model showed, you would see all of it.
Yeah.
You would see all of it.
Yeah. It's a very bizarre thing. But again, I think just to look at everything, the time that we're living in right now, it's even hard to just know if something you hear on the news is true anymore. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, wait a minute. People are skeptical of pretty much everything, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I saw a thing on the internet, like a little meme. It was like scientists in the 90s. It's like, we cloned a sheep and we were genetically modifying crops. Scientists today, for the last time, the earth is flat. It's like,
well, it's the same thing. Like, it depends where you fall on this, but it's the same thing when people come out and say the earth has 12 years left before it just incinerates. And you're like, didn't you say that 30 years ago? And it just keeps, it's a cycle. I guess people just like thinking that everything's coming to an end and that we're all going to be burned up or something. I don't know. Is that what it is?
Earth is resilient.
Exactly. Baby. I know it's been around for a while.
I mean, we still have to respect it.
Sure.
There's still a lot of pollution. There's like with the toxic garbage island in the middle of the ocean, the Great Pacific
is that
Garbage
real?
Patch. It is real
because they did they did that on Family Guy this week. Brian and Stewie ended up living on that garbage pile.
Well, it's not like an actual island of trash. It's basically the currents
bring all the stuff together.
So it's like tiny little plastic bag bits, but it's all together and it's like all deep. It's very deep and thick.
I'm smiling, but I'm laughing because of the cartoon. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I didn't see that one. But yeah, I mean, there really is like tons and tons and tons of garbage
in the ocean.
So yeah, it's not cool.
No.
We need to figure out, put your garbage in the trash and don't dump it in the ocean.
So that there aren't Garfields washing up on shore. Hey, I brought it back.
Brought it back.
You didn't even want to talk about it, but I did anyway.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
There's a bunch of Garfield phones washing up on a beach somewhere.
France.
I didn't bring all the data with me, so I can't share. But here's the thing, I do want to say this about the garbage in the ocean. One of the things that we need to remember is America does a lot to clean this crap up. It's not just America. So if somebody tells you, America's polluting the world, it's not necessarily true. There are like huge. Has anybody ever heard of China or India? Have you heard of these places?
Yeah.
They have a few people there, and they're known to throw their garbage all over the place. And so there you go. Just a little. Uncle Scott just showed up again. Angry Uncle Scott decided to share his thoughts.
China. It's going to be a few years. We're all speaking Chinese and living in igloos or whatever. I don't know.
Dude, if you go down that rabbit hole, man, there's some stuff I've been reading about what China's doing. Man, if that'll scare the crap out of you. All right, listen, before we wrap up, I just want to say again, you wouldn't have been able to see Derek point to his tooth if you're just listening to the program. So go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. By the way, since I've been doing this, our subscribers have just skyrocketed, Derek. I don't know if you knew this, but we are killing it on YouTube. Just go along with me.
How many?
I'm not going to mention the number. It's too big. It'd be like bragging. But hey, I didn't want to forget about this. I did a little thing to look at, like who's listening to our show on podcasts and stuff, and what state did I put in there has the most people listening? It's bizarre.
I saw that.
What was it?
Nebraska.
Okay. Michigan came in second. But if you are listening in Nebraska, you need to tell us that I want to meet you. Okay. Maybe we'll even have one of the people listening in Nebraska on the show, because I know nothing about Nebraska. I know it's flat. Okay. I believe, right? Nebraska's flat, isn't it?
Yeah, Nebraska's flat.
It's part of the flat Earth.
I know a little bit about Nebraska.
Okay. So if you're listening if you're
to
listening in Nebraska, send us an email, heywe'retalking@gmail.com, and put in the subject line Nebraska, because I want to talk to you. I really do. Derek wants to talk to you. I want to meet a Cornhusker. Is that what we call them? Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's their mascot name of the university in Nebraska.
All right.
You know what the N on their helmet stands for?
Nebraska.
Knowledge.
Knowledge starts with a K.
When I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, that's when the University of Nebraska was like a big powerhouse football team.
They kicked butt every year.
And they were in the Big 12 along with like the teams around here, Texas Tech, University of Texas. So, they had there was always University of Nebraska jokes. Right. There was always Aggie jokes.
Are you trying to get rid of our Nebraska listeners by making fun of them?
No, I don't.
You're backtracking on this one.
I just remember the joke and I thought it was funny. Okay. I'm down with Nebraska. Nebraska's home to the Union Pacific Railroad, which is where my dad went to school. Yeah. I mean, not went to school. It's where my dad worked.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's where my dad worked and retired from. So I have nothing but respect for the University of Nebraska. For Nebraska. My brother just did a gig in Lincoln, Nebraska.
He rocked Lincoln, Nebraska.
The other day, and he's been several times.
Okay, so Nebraska people, hit us up for real. I'm not even joking. We'll pick one of you. We'll have you on the show. You can tell us about Nebraska. Because when I saw that, now listen, I'm proud because Michigan's just a little bit behind Nebraska. Like we're talking minor, few numbers here. So I was proud of my Michigan people for listening to the show. But I want to know.
Could it be just one person? Could it be just one person who's binging all of them?
It could be. But what a great, that person needs to be on the show. We need to talk to them. I was also reading some of the comments on our Apple podcasts, on the podcast for Apple, what people said about the show. There was one person that just put, they said something like utter tripe or something like that. They gave us 1 star, and the title was utter, and then underneath it was some kind of insult, just one word. So it was 2 words, utter, and then something insulting underneath. It was
utter
pretty
tripe.
It's something like that.
We should change the name of the podcast to Utter Tripe.
Utter Tripe. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Utter Tripe. So also, before we go, last thing I promise, make sure you go to Numa Coffee and get yourself some coffee. You know all this, pneumacoffee.com. Put in the coupon code HWT. By the way, Bob bought a 5-pound bag of coffee from Numa Coffee.
I saw that.
And he didn't put in the coupon code.
Well,
do you feel like we shouldn't do that because he sponsors the show?
I sometimes don't put in the coupon code.
I do it because I want that number. I want to be in the number. But Bob didn't. 5 pounds, and he didn't even put in HWT.
That'll last him and Jackie.
No, it'll last him a week. I know.
About a week, yeah.
A week, 5 pounds of coffee in a week. I called Bob a moron for not putting the coupon code in, by the way. So there you go. HWT, coupon code, numacoffee.com. Hey, we're coming back on Friday, and we're going to talk about, I don't know how to say it, but people that are living in vehicles. It sounds way more, it's way more interesting than I just made it sound. But when we come back on Friday, we're going to talk about that. Until then, we'll see ya. Have fun on Hump Day. Bye.